Rich, good to see you. First of all, before we crack on, how are you? How are you coping with lockdown?
Yeah, pretty good. No complaints, really. I'm keeping busy. I'm not finding the days drag one little bit. Keeping active as much as I can, like everybody, doing his cooking, doing some reading. The television at the moment, some Amazon Prime and Michael Jordan. I'm a big fan of the American sports, so I'm not struggling to find some stuff to watch on TV. And if there's any benefit, mate, I get to see a little bit more, and my children, and spend a little bit more time with them. So no, all good on that front, mate. All good, keeping fit and well and healthy.
And as someone who's been on the rugby league merry-go-round for a long time, does it seem strange this time of year to be kicking your heels?
Yeah, I think that's that's the sort of, not concern, Phil, but obviously there's a lot of uncertainty around the game at the moment, when we might be getting started. I think importantly what the game will look like when we come out of it. We're hoping that the governing body and the clubs can get us through what's a unbelievable period, really, as intact as we can, and the game looks very similar to the one that we left away in March. Whether that's the case or not, I guess time will tell, and the amount of time that we're off the field. But I think there's a real collective spirit from everyone, players, administrators, fans, to sort of do what it takes to get us back going again, and make sure that we do come out of it and thrive when we manage to get back out there.
And from personal experience, it's important that we have a game-wide approach to that. From your time, obviously your connections to Featherstone, but you've been involved with big clubs of Hull and Leeds and Warrington, but also clubs like Dewsbury and Wakefield, who are the heartbeat of the game as well.
Yeah, look, we all love the game just as much as each other. Everybody's got very different, I guess, needs at this time, very different sort of models and business models, and will be affected in different ways when we come out of it. But yeah, there's always been a collective spirit within the game, and an understanding that we've got to look after each other in times like this. And I think there's a lot of hypothetics out there. The debate rages about 3 games and what that might look like and all that. But I've got a fair amount of trust in the people that are looking after the game at the moment. And I think when we are armed with a bit more information, there'll be a real sensible and collective outcomes that come out of it all.
We're having a chat today because a year ago you'd taken charge of the Rhinos for the first time that year last weekend. Reflect on that time. Let's take you back 12 months before that first game. Obviously, you come back to the UK, having spent time over at St George, and were working in the background. You were pretty excited about that role originally, weren't you? About that game development role at the club.
Yeah, I loved it. I particularly enjoyed my time in Australia. Apart from the experience of working in an NRL club, I worked with some great people, fantastic club, but enjoyed the role as well. Very different to the day in, day out, relentless nature of being a head coach or an assistant coach. And the job was very similar to what I come back to do at Leeds. Leeds is obviously renowned for the quality juniors that it's managed to recruit and had at its disposal over the years, and the success that they've had in bringing them through the pathway. So to work with some younger, inexperienced coaches, the recruitment side of things I've always sort of enjoyed, and Leeds being the size of the club, the people in it were obviously a big sort of attraction for me. And we had some pretty compelling family reasons at the time why what were a factor in his decision in coming home. So coming back to that job, really enjoying it. We just weren't in it for too long.
Leeds had a tough start to the season. Obviously, Dave Furner parted company with the club. What was your first reaction when Kev asked you to step into the helm?
I recall I was sat in the same room actually when I took a call from Kev. My initial reaction to what happened with Dave was shock. I was genuinely shocked and surprised. I didn't think that that was something that was remotely on the cards at that moment in time. And I had to sort of ring off the phone quite quickly to him just to say, look, I'm going to need a bit of time to think about this and digest this. And I had a chat with Dave and all that. And then over the ensuing days, he asked me if I'd look after the team, certainly in the short-term basis. So I think I had one training session into the Bradford game. So it were a difficult, very, very difficult situation. First of all, on a personal level, because I was sat in between two guys there that that I like and that I, enormous amount of respect for. When I come back to the club, getting into the day-to-day, that day-to-day grind of coaching again probably wasn't something that I was looking to jump into straight away. But given the circumstances the club were in at the time, and Dave had a fairly inexperienced staff around him when Jimmy left, and Jimmy left quite suddenly, and I sort of wanted to do it on a short-term basis to try and help Dave out really, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, obviously what happened, and I guess I will say left holding the baby, because that's not true. I certainly won't put under any pressure to do the job, but it also something what it just wasn't planned. So in terms of contingencies and having another coach ready to sort of step into the breach, that won't happen, and that was going to take time. So certainly in the short term, I felt it was my duty really, Phil, to try and stabilise what were a situation at the time that were particularly turbulent, but both internally and obviously a lot of external noise. So I just felt at the time, it was very difficult for the club to go out and get someone in really, really quickly. So I said to Kevin, look, I'll do it in the short term, and then I respect whatever you guys want to do. If you want to bring someone in tomorrow, next week, in a month, that's up to you. But in the short term, we'll pull together, and we'll crack on.
What are your recollections of the mood within the group at that point when you first took over before that Bradford game?
Yeah, it's a good question. Really good question. I haven't been at the club for more than sort of 2 or 3 months. The club had a difficult year the year before, obviously losing Mac, and then I think Kevin and Jimmy took over till the end of the year, and it's fair to say the middle eights was still a fairly difficult campaign for them. They never really quite got that going, although we're in Australia, so I didn't see it all. But following it from afar, you felt that they never saw heaps of great improvement in that, and obviously a difficult start under Dave's tenure. But for me personally, Phil, I wasn't weighed down or tainted by anything that had gone on by then, and I'd been in it 3 or 4 weeks with Dave. We'd had a couple of wins, so again, I don't think I were quite feeling in depth the exact mood of what it was like in that room and in that squad. Yeah, you get a bit of a feel for it, but it's difficult in such a short space of time to say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what needs to work. So it probably unravelled over the first 2 weeks of me being in the job. You think Bradford away, it's an opportunity to progress in the cup. I knew we weren't travelling great. Obviously, a very tumultuous week, losing Dave in the way that it happened. A lot of shock around the club, a lot of external noise. But still going to Bradford, I'll be honest, I still thought we would have enough to aim up. But the Bradford game probably told us everything we needed to know about the squad at that particular time. Probably fractured, probably lacked some confidence, definitely lacked some togetherness, and a little bit of clarity and understanding of where they were at and what they needed to do. And that's certainly not a criticism of anything went before. It's just everything that situation at that time sort of threw at it. So I thought there was some really it were as bad as it got. Bradford, it was a really dark day for the club. but it was rock bottom, and the only way back from there were up. And what that game did enable us to do, understand what needed to be attacked first within the squad. And sometimes the pictures can be very, very powerful for the players to see, and throw some honesty in there. And you know what? We played Castleford the week after, and that probably told us a little bit more about it, because I come away, I thought they tried really hard. We got smoked by Castleford. I remember talking to Darryl before the game, and both what we were wanting from the performances of our teams, and I can remember walking on the field after him. Just we couldn't win a tackle. I think 10, 12 minutes into the game, I turned around to Kevin and said, I think we're in trouble here. But having said that, probably the biggest concern for me at that time, Phil, I thought we tried really hard. I thought individually we had a bunch of players that were trying to aim up after the Bradford game, but we were so far away from where it needed. That gave us a bit of a start point with the squad to move forward. A little bit behind the scenes for you is we attacked review that week, and we asked the players to mark themselves out of 10 for the defensive effort. So we went around the room, and 5s, 6, 7. I think Harry Newman gave himself a 9. No, he didn't really. He marked himself as a 7, which probably wasn't too far away from the mark as well. So we had a lot of fairly high scores, not high, but what you'd consider average scores. Then what we did, we showed the guys the actual film, and then went round the room again, and people, 1, 2, maybe 3. But by the guys giving themselves 5s and 6s and 7s, it sort of told me what I felt I knew, that individually they thought that they were trying really hard. And the point we got out of it was, ultimately defence is, it is the ultimate team discipline, really. And if you're trying hard as an individual, if you're not doing it collectively, and you're not doing it within your system, and you're not sort of front loading your energy, if you like, then what we've just seen on those pictures, that's what's going to happen. So we put a big focus really early doors on effort, Phil. So stop worrying about game plans too much. Stop worrying about, is it this line? Is it this depth? Do I come onto the ball at this tempo? And if I play on this defender, we put it a lot down to effort, about not running past tackles and getting into tackles, doing your marker play, getting off the floor quick, chasing kicks, getting back on side from kicks, just things that basically take no talent, but take a degree of commitment to each other. And we would sort of try and take some steps back and rebuild ourselves from a footy point of view, really. And if we were going to go down as a defensive team, we'd try and go down on the front foot rather than being a passive defensive team. I was still confident that we would find enough points in there to win games if needed to be, just because of the quality and the talent we had in there. And that was sort of, I guess, the start of trying to rebuild ourselves, really. And I think it's fairly well documented. We spent a fair bit of time over the next 2 weeks before the Magic weekend in a classroom, basically, having some pretty honest conversations about the direction we wanted to take as a team moving forward, and the actions and behaviours that we felt, one, were going to get us out of this situation, and two, were befitting of the club that we were representing.
Did that Magic game come at a good time for that group of players, given how low they'd been over that fortnight? A big venue, a big iconic soccer stadium at Anfield, playing against a team that were right in the teeth of it with us down there. So they had their own worries and concerns as well. Yeah,
the 2 week did, Phil. The 2 week that we had off, it certainly took a bit of pressure off. And one thing we did try and do was we just shield the players from all the pressure, really. And as I say, not try and overcomplicate it. Get competing with each other, and I am going to say, have some fun again. We wanted to try and put some smile back on people's faces, so start playing a lot of games in training and just competing against each other. And then just being able to get away, like as you say, get away for that night, spend some time together. The Magic weekend historically, if you're not a team that plays in playoffs and finals, there is that little bit of a feel to it, like almost semi-final football, where you get away, you play at a big stadium, always a bigger crowd and a fair amount of neutrals in there. It was the first time it had been at Anfield. So obviously there a little bit of a novelty in that. But it was a real pressure game. And, everybody, rightly so, really, after his previous two performances, everybody were tipping us to get beat. And I did think for 60 minutes, 65 minutes, we were pretty good in that game. But still, you didn't have to scratch too much under the surface for us to start unravelling again. And we had a very, very nervous end to the game. But one thing we did, we sort of said we celebrated the win. Had a couple of beers on the bus on the way back. Boys got the tunes on, and we saw some sort of smiles again, which again gave us something very much to build off. And I think we're a shot in the arm for us at that particular moment in time. We again just focusing on effort. We knew that some of the stuff wouldn't improve till we got going a bit, till we got that effort right, and some of it, Phil, as we started to get through the season, became apparent that we will probably only improve where we were at by making some personnel changes too.
And then, crucially, after the Magic weekend, managed to back up that win and win a real dour derby down at Wakefield in the rain with that interception try from Tuilolohea to seal it. But that could have gone the other way if that ball had got past Tui and they scored. Then suddenly we're right back in the mire.
Yeah, if casting my mind back to that night, obviously the conditions, we couldn't see the game. We were stuck in a box at Wakefield that had no sort of aircon, so all the windows were steaming up, and such were the rain. We were having to peer through, the smallest gap. But again, looking back on that game, I thought that was quite significant for us. From a team that were probably conceding close to 30 points a game. Again, a pretty good attacking team. I know the conditions were difficult that night, and as you say, it did produce a dour game. But I thought we showed an incredible amount of resilience to win that game. What started to become apparent when we started to beat games and defend well. Ches is a mate of mine, but coaches started to sort of more down to us than what Leeds were doing. But I felt differently. I thought we did a good job. You rightly talk about the try. Yeah, the splitters on that play, and Tui came up with an all or nothing play really, and did tremendously well. He had a good game that night. Did tremendously well to finish the try for us. But it's a night that were marked out by the way that we defended. I think we might have done something like 7 sets on his own line in the first half. We defended 5 dropouts. Ash Hanley, knocking 50-50 balls into dead. When they were having sort of shots on his try line, there were 3 or 4 bodies piling into tackles. And I thought that were incredibly encouraging from what, the improvements that we talked about in terms of effort and turning up for each other. I thought we looked, we looked like we were going to have a right crack for each other that night. And, while it wasn't perfect, such were the effort that we were incredibly difficult to break down. We scrambled really well, threw bodies in there, dealt with kicks, and just chipped away at the scoreboard. What put us out to, I can't remember the score now, Phil, we're 18-0, 14-0, something like
10-0.
that. 10-0, oh well,
yeah.
Getting carried away with myself there. A bit dour than I remember then, eh?
And then back-to-back games against Wigan and Saints were always going to be a test, but there were 2 defeats, but there was certainly the green shoots of recovery were there in those 2 games.
Yeah, I remember these games. 2 very different games. So Wigan at home, I thought we were unlucky. I thought, take the scoring plays out of it, I thought we had big periods where we dominated that game, particularly second half. We had enough possession in that second half to come away with the wins. I know they scored a try after the bell, which wasn't a try. Really disappointing that it were even given. It should have been a 1-score game. I thought our effort in that was magnificent. But again, that really was the catalyst for it starting to highlight with us as a team that we were really committed to each other. We were getting a lot right. We were still getting bits wrong defensively, but we were getting an awful lot more right defensively. We got the field position, but we had a real inability to break opposition teams down in the final 10 metres. That was something that, as the season unravels and we talk about more games, we can highlight the fact that, look, we had enough possession there, to come away with more points than what we did. We just didn't ask enough questions of Wigan on their try line, and our last tackle plays just didn't exert enough pressure. And I think when everybody looks at last tackle plays, initially the spotlight falls on the guys that kick the ball, your number sevens, Richie in particular that night. But we didn't buy into that. We felt that it were a collective from the team, that everybody could play the part more on last tackle plays in terms of awareness and looking at what's in front of you, understanding what they're seeing, being available, turning good kicks into great kicks, and some onus from our decision makers to make better plays too. So that were a game that I guess earmarked for us as a club going forward. Look, this is going to be an area that we're going to have to become much, much better if we want to beat the better sides in the comp. I said at the time, I felt that internally. Wigan were in a similar spot to us, but I thought I'd seen some shoots of recovery in Wigan themselves, and I thought, these are a team that have definitely got the ability to get on a roll from here, which I think they ended up finishing top four. They finished second, didn't they?
Second, yeah.
Finished second from there. And yeah, tough team, mate. Really, really tough team. But probably one that got away. But also just the reality of where we were at as a team at that point. Effort, 10 out of 10 for effort. But probably a 5 out of 10 for execution on the night. And we went to Saints week after. I felt that was a step backwards for us. Again, not everybody. We had a terrible start to the game. Terrible start. I can sort of reveal some stuff we talked about at half time because I can remember this. I felt we went to Saints without the same attitude that we'd had in some of those games. I felt we'd gone to Saints who, at the time, Phil, Saints were that far in front of every other team in the comp. They couldn't hear the band playing behind them. You know what I mean? They were just playing a different brand and style, but a different speed and power to everybody else. Justin had got on going great. So going there were difficult, but I still got the feeling really that, from 1 to 17, we probably didn't have that right level of attitude going into that game. Maybe one 13 of us did, and 2, 3, or 4 of us maybe didn't, which is not enough. You just got to have everybody on board. I can remember half time we'd had such a bad start. We just weren't in the game, and I think Donnell come off the bench for us, and he dipped his shoulder in a couple of tackles and picked Alex Walmsley up, and the game got a bit tasty at a point. And there's talk at half time. This could go two ways. We've sort of done a lot of real good work over the last couple of weeks. Tried to take the importance of results out of it. That sounds a bit silly, given we were probably in a relegation battle, but concentrate on doing what we do in the effort areas. And I just felt that first half at Saints were, I thought with 3 or 4 that were like just off and not where it needed to be if you want to compete with Saints. So at half time, kept it really simple. There were no cups of tea flying around the room and shouting and bawling. Just look, we've got a choice, and this is our choice. But this game can go one of 2 ways. We can throw another 15, 20 minutes like that up and probably get a 40, 50 point hiding, and all the sort of great steps that we've had over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We go backwards. We go backwards a fair significant way. So again, effort, bending us back in tackles and doing all the sort of simple things and play with a bit more aggression. And I think, I'm definitely not one for comparing halves, or we won the second half 12-10 or all that. And I can't actually remember what it was, but we went we competed with them for bigger periods, and when we look back at the tape, we probably had a couple more opportunities in there that had we had taken one or two of them, then we could have made a much closer fist of it, playing for probably 35, 40 minutes of the game. So again, we were able to cherry pick some really good stuff out of that, but at the same time, that game gave us the opportunity to to not attack some individuals, but certainly hold some people accountable to say, look, this is just not good enough. This is just not good enough if you want to play first grade for this club. We expect this. We expect a standard and level of performance and commitment every week, and we just didn't get it in this game. And some of the opening 15 minutes reminded me of what we were like against Castleford. So again, tough, worrying, but definitely an opportunity to I guess move us forward in terms of standards that we wanted to set and how we wanted to keep people accountable.
And it was around at this time that the changes you mentioned earlier started to come into Scott. Agar had arrived prior to the Bradford game. He'd made his debut just before that, but then obviously Callum Watkins he left the club. He went over to the Gold Coast. Matt Parcell moved on to LKR, and then we had Rob Louis and Rhys Martin arrive at the club, and Sean Lunt as well. Did that help to really refocus? You mentioned about the standards required, bringing in those news people. Was that part of that process?
Yeah, it was, and it's by no means an indication of the guys that went out too. I think Callum's situation was really well documented. A difficult one, not one that I had particularly had too much to do with at the time. Around contractual issues and stuff like that. So that was thrown on us at the back of his minds. Phil, we got a precocious young talent in there. In Harry Newman that probably needed a pathway to come through, so we were acutely aware of that, and a kid behind him too in Alex Sutcliffe that pulling up trees at Featherstone really, and so the ability to change his team around. Losing Matty were difficult. We think Matty's a really good player, done a great job, and we just felt we needed probably a more commanding halfback to play alongside Rich at that particular time. Rhys Martin is one that, Sutty were kicking goals really well. I've always had a rating on Rhys from seeing him play for PNG and spending some time out in Australia. Watched a lot of him that year I was there, and just his goal kicking ability. I thought if we're going to be in a fight like we are. Goal kicking can prove the difference, and obviously over the years that the club had Kevin, everybody knows that your ability to turn fours into sixes, it can be so powerful for your team and demoralising for the opposition. But that apart, I knew Rhys was a good kid, and a guy whose attacking talents really would suit Super League, and the other Sean Lunt obviously giving us some losing Matty. Freed us that opportunity to use our quota spots a little bit more, and we needed some more backup. And I thought Lunty come with a super attitude. The position that we were in didn't scare him. The role we wanted him to play, we were perfectly happy with that. And he was a guy that just, give us an immediate input of energy in and around the dressing room, on the training field. Working with the coaches. Sean were obviously, as a professional, probably getting towards the back end of his Super League days, but the job he did for us, they were magnificent. And, I would look at Arva and say, we're always a better team when Arva plays in our team. You know what you're going to get for him. He's a big human, loads of experience. And, that sort of little change in the dynamic of his team, change in attitude. I remember Rob Lewis' first training session. He came in and just kept it simple. It was a really red hot day, Phil. I think, if you can remember it, down on the bottom field at Kirkstall. And you could just sense the people in the team looking around going, this is great. Rob just stamped his influence on us straight away. As we know from having worked with him for 12 months, just a wonderful character as well. Never gets too ruffled. Tremendous team man and a really good player. That gave us a little bit of changing dynamic, boosting confidence, probably added a bit more balance to his team, strengthened us in some positions that we needed strengthening. Gave us a 90% goal kicker. We started. I think we started to get a different feel about ourselves as a team and what were required and certainly what we could achieve, really, confidence-wise.
And in terms of responses after that St Helens performance, we certainly got it in the next two games. A big win against Catalans, and then an away win at Castleford. Could you begin to feel the pressure lifting off the boys?
We were at the dreaded 3 wins on the trot, weren't we? Because we've not had 3 wins on the trot for a while, and that was getting talked about. The Catalan game, I thought were a good game. I thought Catalan scored an amazing try in that game, and I thought we played a really strong 80 minutes. The game were in the balance at times, and harping back to that changing mindset and changing confidence. We're a time where we're getting tight and close in games. Perhaps we wouldn't add the confidence to go on and get that job finished. But I thought that was gradually building, and we kept our nerve, stuck together, and I thought we played some really good stuff and scored some good tries that day. And I thought that were a terrific win in the circumstances. And then going to Castleford, where I think the club had not had a win for a while, if I'm right, Phil, in that game. Always a wonderful place to play. It's an old stadium, but it never gets really beat too much on atmosphere. Fans got behind us right on top of the stadium, right at the side of the pitch. So he always produces wonderful atmosphere, great playing surface. It was a lovely night, and it was a really tough contest. I know we got a couple of tries early doors, I think. And really tight game, and again, what stands out to me there were the amount of defending we did. Defending our try line, just heroically, really. Again, Castleford. Castleford probably made some errors, but I think some of them errors come about from the pressure that we were putting them under. It was a game that, again, if I recall rightly, we bent our backs really well in that, and a feature of it were our tackling. Not just numbers in, but getting off our line, hitting aggressively. Chopping the big fellas down. We copybook low tackles, which sort of disappeared from the game a bit, but we sort of got a bit of that going in as team. And I thought we were, really dominant defensively for long periods of that game. Again, just didn't come up with enough with the ball. Castle scored a good try on us to bring it back, and then after being impenetrable for all that time, I think they scored tries in back-to-back sets, if I remember rightly. I don't know if that's the one where Reece kicked the ball out on the full from the kickoff and the scored next set. Scored a wonderful try in there, Cass. So the game again got very tight, very nervy. Rob Louis come up with a super individual try to put us 2 scores ahead, and wonderful win. Wonderful win down at the Jungle, and one again, which I think we took a lot out of in the way that we turned up for each other. The spirit we showed, the way we defended, terrific. And we had enough in us to come up with, I think, 3 tries on the night.
Yeah, and retrospectively, looking back now, the journey the team have been in that 8 weeks from that first game against Castleford at home to that, just 8 weeks later against the same opposition, defensively, but also, in terms of organisation, it must give you a lot of pride in the lads and how they responded to that.
Yeah, if I can sort of sum it up a little bit, we weren't getting as affected as anybody else was. We understand. I'm not a social media person anyway. Probably a good job, but all the external noise, and every time, we got beat, and this was the reality, Phil. We knew where the team was. We totally understood where that side was. We got some things. I'll talk about our defence and our commitment and our effort. We got that going tremendously well. We still had some inconsistencies in there. Still were making too many errors. And as I've also said, we still, probably weren't clinical enough or good enough. Just plain and simply good enough in a couple of areas on attack to be a team that we're going to be, consistently pushing. When I look back on it and I look back at some of the small margins for us on maybe 2 or 3 results, we probably weren't too far away had we been able to flip that of having a crack at the playoffs. But that was also the reality of where we knew we were at as a team and where we were at roster-wise, personnel-wise, all that. But I think in terms of our mental health, if you like, as a team, we were feeling we were going all right. Weren't getting too down and despondent on any defeats. Confidence were high, and I think every defeat we had were met with a terrific response that, we know how we can improve on last week's performance and we'll get it done this week. So it were an interesting journey over that period of time. But we definitely weren't feeling the external pressure, even though the results were incredible in and around us, weren't they? In and around us and below us, just as you think you get a couple of wins and you can start to pull away from this, everybody else won, or there were some, real strong upsets in there. And we said all along, people are going to take points for each other in this, so we just got to worry about ourselves. And I think it came crashing down the week after at OKR. I'd probably stick my own hand up for this. Probably some performances and maybe thought taking his eye off the ball is completely the wrong sentence here, but probably a little bit in front of ourselves. Not much, just a step or two in front of ourselves from where we thought we were in terms of progressing as a team. And then Danny Maguire came and, just a tremendous display from him for OKR that night. And we were off, we were definitely off that night. And, a really good kick in the pants and reminder for us all internally that, we just totally got away from what had been working for us over the previous 4, 5, 6 weeks. But we definitely were feeling really solid internally, and certainly, even watching some of the games on Sky and stuff like that, and some of the comments we felt permeating through a little bit. We just weren't feeling that. We were feeling confident. We had a smile on our faces, and I felt we could handle a setback.
A narrow loss to Hull FC after that OKR game was followed by 2 big wins, one away at Huddersfield and one at home against Catalans, that took us close to the finishing line. In terms of that Huddersfield performance, that 44-0, do you think that sent out a message to all the other teams about where we were headed?
But probably touch on the whole game first. I thought, again, that was one that got away from us. I thought we'd come back well enough and probably deserved enough to be on the scoreboard in the tight game. Again, I think the game really highlighted us to us where we needed to improve this team. I thought we got a real tough call in the last sort of 5 minutes, what put us on as try line for a try. But again, Hull were going all right at the time, and again, I thought it showed we were competing. And to have a setback like that potentially could have been really deflating for us, Phil. To put so much into a game, come back, get beaten on the whistle like we did. I think Sneed kicked the goal from the sideline. That potentially could have been a really demoralising experience going into Huddersfield the week after, which they were a team in and around us, and every time we came up to a game like that, it will build as a was it us or them. Going right back to Magic, we were getting that. That was the sort of narrative around the games. Whoever wins is going to be all right. Whoever loses, not. There's still loads of games and loads of points and twists and turns at this point. So going to Huddersfield, pretty astounding victory, really. Again, kept our second clean sheet, which is really hard to do in rugby league. We kept a clean sheet and just played some, scintillating rugby. Scored tries every which way, scored from kicks, scored long range tries, went up the middle, round the edges, scored on the try line. Just a great night, really. Turned up everything sort of came off for us, and again on the back of a potentially deflating loss, our response again were quite magnificent.
And then that big win against Catalans again before taking on Saints at home.
Yeah.
After they'd won the league leadership and were clearly the team to beat in Super League last year.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Catalan were the 12-man one. Is that right? Where Singo got sent off. Yeah. I thought we were cruising in that game, and then all of a sudden a send off, and it's like, hello, we're 35 minutes from home, and the scoreboard's nowhere near. We've nowhere near got enough distance. So again, in terms of resilience and quality of some of our play that night, I felt we were certainly banishing our demons in a lot of senses with victories like that. Saints just let us know where we were, I thought, as a team. They'd got a couple of players missing. Probably a good opportunity for us. But again, just highlighted, how far Saints were in front of most of the comp at that time and just where we were in terms of, ability to execute. We had a lot of errors that night and consistency in performance, which, again, we knew were a longer term improvement for us.
And then you talked about games being billed as do or die for the rest of the season, but certainly the next one there was down at London against the Broncos, where victory secured our place because of the points, because we'd sorted out our defence. Our points team was so superior to everyone else with 2 games to go afterwards. Remember the journey back? Was it a sense of relief there?
Yeah, we had a good weekend. We stayed at what's the hotel called that we stay in when we go down?
Lensbury.
The Lensbury, yeah, which is, as you know, a really picturesque, beautiful place to stay. The sun were out. We just didn't want to spoil it with the game of rugby league on the end of it, where we didn't get a result. Look, I was really confident going into that game. I thought, with the greatest respect, I thought we would only beat ourselves that day. Really confident with it, with the attitude, confident in our build-up. Started the game really strongly. Again, I thought we looked rock solid defensively. A couple of things stand out to me that day. Harry Newman having his sister as mascot, and he didn't actually recognise that he had holding hands with his sister walking onto the field. We finished our warm-up early, so Blackie and Chev got a bit of an earful that we finished our warm-up and we're in these small red hot changing rooms at London. We finished it 5 minutes too early, so I remember that. And I can remember us talking all week about us giving them a leg into the game. Whatever we do, don't throw speculators in Kieran Dixon's zone. And then Jack Walker threw one. And that changed the momentum of the game. I thought we were well on top. Didn't think we looked in any danger whatsoever having his try line broken. And the other big thing that stood out for me, Phil, that day were the crowd, the support. Travelled in numbers, obviously a small ground with a small capacity, and our fans just, obviously dominated the far end. And it's safe to say that if we got the win on this, we would be uncatchable from a points difference point of view, and that was pretty much going to be it from securing our place. In the old days, a year before, we would have made the playoffs, I believe, in terms of where we finished in the comp. So coming from the position we'd come, where confidence were down, I think we were joint bottom of the league at some point. To make the headway we did, look, Leeds are a big club. The expectation, is enormous. Being at Leeds is about winning trophies, as we've seen over the last 20 years. So avoiding relegation, we definitely weren't beating our chests and celebrating. But nonetheless, I felt we could be proud of the way that we turned our attitudes around. Really, playing with a smile on our faces. Getting the fans behind us. I thought they stayed behind us really well throughout what is obviously a tough period for them too. And I just thought that were a great day where the rapport between the players and the fans at the end of the day. There's sometimes things that you remember coming away from a game, and we had a beer on the bus on the way back up, and I say we weren't celebrating, avoiding relegation, but nonetheless. If there were any pressure going into those last couple of games, he just totally took that away from us, and we could sort of enjoy the rest of the season really.
Yeah, we lost a tight one against Salford. Next up, Jamie Jones Buchanan scoring his final try for the club, and then of course it was an emotional night for Jonesy for saying farewell against Warrington in a great way to sign off the season.
Yeah, I mean Jonesy played Salford game and got the players man of the match, and the part of me, I'd promised Jamie, I knew we were going to pick Jamie before the end of the year, but he'd been injured. He'd come back into training intensely, and I probably overlooked him and went a different way for a couple of games, and we played him in that Salford game, and I've told him this, and we know we can be really honest with each other, me and Jonesy. There were a part of me that maybe should I have picked him a bit earlier. Such was the level of his performance for those two games. I was sort of thinking, maybe I should have had him in and around. He was 18th man about 3 times, I think. I always knew we were going to play him towards the end of the year. There was no way we were going to let him pass up on that, regardless of the situation. Because I knew I could trust him from a playing point of view. But he played really well. And the Salford game, I remember talking to Ryan Carr on the way into that one. No one was probably talking about it at that time, but as you do, you watch 4 or 5 games and you build up. We actually looked at Salford and thought, they're a really good team. They're a team that could really shock and surprise a few on this run. I thought they were incredibly hard to break down, and I thought it were a night really similar to the Wigan game. That, for game plan wise, from a defensive point of view, we did some marvellous things, but they had a player that broke us down twice when he needed to. He got the feel of the game really well, and the 2 opportunities we gave to him, he took, and they defended magnificently. And again, I would look at that and think that were a game we didn't deserve to win, but moving forward, there were things from that game that were like, look, Kev, we know we've got to improve on that next year. Week after is a week that is one of those that you'll remember. More send-offs than Jim Mills. Every time we went anywhere, I've heard his speech. I reckon I could regale his speech verbatim now if I wanted to. But what a guy! What a guy, and a little bit special for myself, really. Sometimes you feel like an intruder because of the golden generation part of it. I felt to be up the front of the changing rooms, leading the talk on Jones's presentation, and that I'm not sure I deserve that honour, if that makes any sense to you. I weren't part of that. I were an outsider looking in on that. And there's a perception within Leeds that a lot of other clubs don't like Leeds and have got it in for them. That may well be true, if you get in the virtual world. But as a professional within the sport, looking in, I had just nothing but respect for Leeds, for what they've achieved, for the guys that coach the teams, for the players, people like Jonesy, Kev, JP, Danny, Rob, all them, just nothing but respect and admiration, really. And I just felt I was fairly new to it. I'm not sure that I will be fitting and standing up there and leading any talks and tributes on Jonesy, really. A little bit same when Callum left. And that stands out for a couple of reasons. With Jonesy's last game and his family coming in to present his shirt before the game, I think we were at a point that, the result weren't irrelevant. We just wanted to get a massive performance out for Jonesy, and energy-wise, we just wanted to get the crowd on board, and we knew what Jonesy would bring. And with Corey Johnson's debut, which, obviously early this year, a real shock to us that Corey retired. And I remember Jonesy presenting his shirt, and I thought that was the start of something really special for that kid. I thought he was a kid that were going to go on and be a superstar in the game. And in terms of my 12-month in charge, we're talking about changing the perception of how we were going and changing our mindset and trying to sow the shoots of being a competitive team again, and building. And he was a guy that we felt in the long run would be at the forefront of it. And some of the good stuff that's happened over the last 12 months, it's also tinged with some shocks, sadness, surprise in there, and that were one of them for me. That were the kid's first and last game in a Leeds shirt, and he decided that the game wasn't for him, and what felt the kid were going to go on and have be a superstar really at the game. But I guess back onto the positive. Jonesy, tremendous game, plays man of the match again. We beat a Warrington team that were fighting to finish in second spot. We were a team that had really nothing to play for, apart from doing it for his mates and for each other, and for the people that had stuck with us through this difficult year, and for Jonesy, and we put in a great performance against a team that were fighting for a second spot on a home tie, and we won. We won resoundingly well. I think can't remember the score. 26-4, or it something like that.
30.
Wrong again.
26-4. No, spot.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. There we go. So no, terrific night. Great celebrations after. The fans stayed behind, and everybody did the speeches. All the Kiwi guys and the Polynesian guys got together and did a haka for Jonesy, which, to be close, our first time really, I've been really close up to that. Again, something that you'll always remember, and I thought, the club did Jonesy and Abo, who were, it was his last sort of involvement with the club, did him really, really proud that night, and that was pretty much the end of our, what were a fairly eventful season, Phil.
Yeah, and then looking into the off season and planning for the new campaign. Few changes off the field. James Webster came his new role at Featherstone, and then became part of your team. Chev had a bit more of a senior role as well, and then obviously recruitment was key as well to strengthen the side. We lost Trent Merrin. He returned home for personal reasons, but able to bring in some quality as well.
Yeah, I mean, you tell me when I've talked enough about this. Can talk in depth a little bit about this. We were in a position that. There were going to be some restructuring around what were going on underneath first grade level, probably in terms of finance, Phil. If I'm honest, in how the club, resourced our academy section. Look, we did try and keep Ryan Carr. Ryan let us know that he was going to. Don't want to sound Webbo feel like a second choice here. Look, we've got a good enough history, mate, for him not to be too upset by this, because he knows this too. Look, we were going to keep. Well, we wanted to keep Ryan. Ryan had let us know that he was going to be leaving Featherstone. Choose what happened. So we spoke to Featherstone and said, "Look, do you mind if we try and keep him?" They were pretty good about that, and probably thought we were going to keep him for a period of time, and then. Ryan got an offer to go back and work in the NRL, which he took. And by that time, Featherstone had taken Webbo on as their coach. But just given the relationship between the club, Ryan weren't with us all year. But I think when he did get in there, he'd give us a terrific young coach, and did a wonderful job for us. But at the same time, a full-time coach coaching a part-time team, if they're prepared to do that extra work. And obviously we've got another assistant too. We thought there were a lot of benefits for that, because he could spend more time. If he's got 4 or 5 of our guys playing with him every week, it gives him access to that. But it also lets him view close-up guys that ordinarily he might not want to pick for Featherstone. Yet once he's seen some of these young kids close up, probably forms a bit of a different opinion about them. And that happened, and we felt we had a really strong relationship with Featherstone. It's not everyone's cup of tea, dual reg. Featherstone fans don't like it, and there'll be elements of our people that don't like it. And in an ideal world, is it what we'd all plump for? But that's the system, and that's the way the game's run. And I think our relationships, both from our hierarchy, the Featherstone chairman's a friend of mine. But we have a really good understanding of how that's worked, and I'm going to pay tribute to our players. Our players have bought into it tremendously well. They understand that it is part of our pathway. They understand that it's, playing at the top end of the championship is a good standard of rugby. For the guys that probably are on less contracts, they also get paid winning and losing money. But the way that they committed to it last year, Ashton Golden were one of them, Alex Sutcliffe, that just over the moon with the progress Alex made, and the same goes for Callum too. Callum went in there and ended up playing in the grand final as a young halfback. And, tremendous grounding for him to get that experience. So all in all, it's been a really good relationship. And when Ryan went home, rather than go out and look for a full-time coach, we knew we had an option for two. We just thought Webbo, knowing each other like we did, and if Featherstone were okay for it, it'd be a sort of fairly seamless fit. And Jonesy, Jonesy. While Jones is a rookie coach, I thought this was important for me, Phil, that I'd wanted the squad to get away from talking about 2015 and when Kev were here and when JP were here and Magsy used to do this. Part of it, they were gone, boys. They're gone. They're not here to help us out of this situation. We've got to get away from that. So we need a new batch of leaders. Wardy stood up terrifically during that time. But at the same time, we didn't want to disregard all that had gone before us. And we wanted those guys as inspiration. We wanted those guys' experience at the times that they had. So Kevin, obviously, is director of rugby. Chev were on the staff. Rob Burrs were on the staff. Jonesy's got an amazing way, as we all know, of articulating himself, putting himself in that particular situation, and his mindset. And his mindset were a major factor of how he got through and had such a success in his career as a player. And I just thought some of those traits would be awesome. While he's a rookie coach still, it would be awesome for us on our staff to give that Leeds mentality view, what's got him through them situations, at what he encountered as a player himself. And, he's got a very, very strong work ethic. So Jones has been great to work with, really, really good.
And then recruits, obviously, the most high profile was Luke Gale's move from Castle. He eventually got that one over the line. He's fitted right in, but Matt Pryor's come in. Cruz Lehman, unfortunately, has been injured, so he's not been able to make the impact we all hope he will do in the future. But Alex Meller as well has come in. So that's giving you a bit of fresh impetus about in the group as well.
Yeah, well, and a lot of that come back off last year. I weren't certain that I was going to coach the team, Phil. As we know, it was probably after that London game that we sort of said, look, I didn't want any external distractions. I think Kevin probably did his diligence and went out there and talked to a couple of coaches and saw what were on the market. But it was really important for me that I didn't want to take the job 6 games in and then all of a sudden we lose 5 from 6. And I look a poor appointment for the club, and it looks a poor appointment for Kevin. It was important for me that I felt some of the improvements that we've talked about during this film, I wanted to see them through to the end of the year and know that we were continuing to point in the right direction before I said, yeah, come on, we can take this, we can take this forward. I get on good with Kev. I think we're very much aligned in the future we see and the way forward that we see for our club in terms of how we recruit and the balance that we want to get. So when it came to the end of the year, Matty Pryor, I know we've only had 4 games of him, but I just think he's been an unbelievable signing for him. Most low maintenance player you'll ever find in your life, yet he delivers such a high degree of consistency and quality. But he was a guy that we knew would win tackles, lead our line speed, be aggressive up front, and just play to a high level of consistency. Gailey, I've already talked about it a little bit here, is in terms of organising ourselves a little bit more in good ball, last tackle plays, leadership, confidence, wants to be here, great character. Probably had to adapt his style of play a little bit, or our style of play as a club to what he's come from his previous club. But I think he's done that magnificently, and just a great signing for us. Great kid. Alex Mellor and Cruz, two young blokes with wonderful attitudes and a lot of good rugby league left in front of them. And who else we got out of that? That's it, really, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost Trent Merrin, obviously, which had been well documented. But we were comfortable with the reasons. We didn't want to lose Trent as a player or as a captain, but at the same time, we fully understood the personal circumstances around all that. And allied with that, Phil, were very much a desire for us as a club to start promoting from within. We talked about these a fair bit, but some of the young guys that have come in this year, we felt if we were going to evolve as a club and build a generation, then some of these terrific young players that we've got needed an opportunity. And if we were going to give an opportunity, we needed to give them one, but also stick by them a little bit and sort of clear that pathway and have confidence that they were good enough and that they would improve. And I think so far we've seen some good elements of that already this season.
And all that progress and the development and all the bits you've been building seem to really come together in 1 week in pre-season. You went over to Spain for a training camp, which was very intense for the group. You've spoken about it previously. There was a lot of classroom time there and a lot of self-reflection about the group. And at the end of that week came the testimonial game for Jamie Jones Buchanan and for Rob Burrow, which really encapsulated everything you spoke about throughout this interview about the spirit you were trying to get within the group and really gave a sort of a physical embodiment to that feeling. Yeah,
that's it. You can post words on a wall and talk about what you want to be and what you want to do, but ultimately, whether them words are plastered on a wall or not, it comes down to your people and it comes down to your behaviours and your actions and being accountable within that and being held accountable. So part of my job, I guess, is the facilitation of that and not just me holding them accountable, but holding each other accountable. And I can do nothing but shower praise on the playing group that we've got in the way that the synergy, the commitment that they've built up to each other, and the honesty. And we've had some little. How can I say, workshops for want of a better word, or obviously we have we understand what our spirit of the Rhino means now, which is what you're talking about happened on camp, and we probably did as much good work off the field as we did on it in camp, and I think it just opens the guys up to each other where they can build stronger, more solid, open and honest relationships with each other, and I think. We have got a group of players at the moment that have got good guys with a genuine fondness for each other and a genuine commitment to each other too. And I know that might sound a bit fluffy. And ultimately, Phil, you get tested over your 29 rounds, don't you? And all of a sudden now we've had a couple of situations thrown at us. I think, Rob Burrows' situation just rocked the place to its core. The spirit that we saw come out of that from everybody in the rugby league game, but from our club in particular, highlights what a special place it is. And obviously, what we've had thrown at us now with a virus, that's going to test us and challenge us. But we're on a journey too. We're not sat here saying everything's great, and we're back to where you guys were 10 years ago, dominating everything and running away with trebles and stuff like that. We're not sat here thinking that. We're sat here knowing that there's a lot more hard work to come. But we feel, I feel that we're aligned as a club, both from a management staff and as a playing group, and we're definitely a team and a squad that can build and evolve together. And I think we've got good guys with a terrific attitude in and around that to weather any setbacks what come and not get ourselves into probably a hole that they've encountered a couple of times over the last couple of years.
You mentioned the 5 games we've had this season, still so early on in the campaign, but the disappointment of Hull on that opening day has been outweighed by the performances since then, particularly the Warrington home game I'm thinking of, that was as impressive a performance by a Leeds side for many years.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I thought we'd had a good pre-season on the field, off the field, in terms of our performances. Our performances in some games left a bit to be desired, which were expected in certain areas. But I did think we set out like we were defending all right again, which is always a good, a good indicator. We went to Wigan and defended really, really well. We wanted to go to Wigan in a trial game because we wanted to go to Wigan or Saints and just have the toughest fixture that we could probably get, really. So yeah, to throw in what we did round one, what I found, as a coach, Phil, I've been asked about round one more than any other performance. I think we've had 4, 3 out of the 4 pretty good performances. We beat Salford away. Salford made the grand final last year, and I know their team's changed, but that's a tough game. We beat Warrington at home. That after 2 rounds, everyone was tipping them to win the comp, and obviously some good performances again, Hull KR and again Toronto. But I still find that Hull is the go-to question all the time, which brings me back to that expectation of being at Leeds. You're sort of not allowed too many of them in a year. But I understood it, mate. I understood on the night we were off. A couple of things didn't quite go for us on the night. Thought we started the game plan-wise pretty good. Didn't nail a couple of chances we had. And we got outpowered and outmuscled, and we made some catastrophic individual errors on that night. Would I sat there that night? Well, majorly disappointed, because obviously the expectation and, naturally there's going to be a reaction to a performance like that. We understand that. The reaction probably not in context from where we were as a group, and an overreaction probably. But I can remember walking in the changing rooms, probably me feeling a bit anxious and a bit nervous the week after, not knowing we were going to get. And I walked into the changing rooms the night of the whole KR game and just really felt quite relaxed when I saw where the boys were, what we're going to be like tonight. And, just felt they were in a really good place. Luke Gale, I'm going to, for particular praise, being a new player to the club as well, sat in review after the whole game and went, look, this rests with us. We know where we've gone wrong. We know how to fix this up, don't we? And not getting too rattled after one defeat, although it were a poor defeat and poor performance and a real letdown being round one. Over a period of time, Phil, I felt, it probably wasn't the time to get too alarmed. Just fix up a couple of things and make sure we're not making as many errors. And yeah, the boys have done that, and it's left us on this long break, disappointed, frustrated, but at the same time, probably not in too bad a place. We were on the back of a couple of really strong wins. The Warrington one were a terrific performance in particular. So we've got a mentality, I guess, that we can't wait to get started again whenever that will be, and we're very fortunate at this moment in time. I've already said to have a pretty good bunch of blokes representing the club at the moment that I'm quite proud of the way they've handled this whole situation and the way that they're all conducting themselves. We get together like everyone does virtually. We've had some guest speakers on there, as you know. We've been shipping in some interesting characters from all walks of life to speak to us. One guy, we had John Mitchell on, the former All Blacks coach, who's working with Eddie Jones with England at the moment. From a performance perspective, we've had some special forces guys on that have done behind enemy lines missions that are real eye openers. We've had guys from all different walks of life on there to speak to our guys. They're all keeping in touch with each other, and I say I'm really proud of the way that they're handling themselves and looking after themselves at this moment in time.